One of the most common arguments against the legitimacy of the Bible is also one of the easiest to shut down. Give me 5 minutes of your time, and I'll explain how.
My life story. Yeah.
One of the most common arguments against the legitimacy of the Bible is the idea that the Bible is more like a really long game of telephone. It's the idea that the Bible was disordered over time, that even before it was written, through mouth to word sort of transportation was an unreliable mechanism for doing so. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why that argument is far from true and how you can easily shut it down using these arguments. Now, I really like what Dr. Peter Williams had to say in this DVD. Or this DVD. One of these two. Dr. Peter Williams says, "Why should I compare the Bible to a game that is intentionally designed to distort the message?" He said, "Why should I use the game of telephone as an analogy when it has so many faulty mechanisms, like you're only allowed to hear the message once, or you have to go through only one line of people in order to get it to the end, or the fact that the message originally is something that's typically created so that it can be confused in the end of the game." Dr. Williams says that a more appropriate analogy would be something like studying martial arts. In martial arts, we dedicate ourselves to training, to perfecting our moves over and over again, and doing the same ones repeatedly so that we can get it right. Also, through documentation, we can say with confidence that the moves that we're practicing right now are the same moves that were practiced when in early martial arts. It stayed consistent, that's the point. Anyways, the whole end goal of martial arts is that it remains consistent because it's practical. That's a highly appropriate analogy for the Bible because it more accurately explains the way that the Bible was transferred throughout history. The analogy of the Bible being like the game of telephone is a bad argument because it's a highly speculative argument and it doesn't have any evidential support to back it up. So really it's not a reasonable criticism. And it's entirely contrary to the historical reality that we understand of the times that surround the Bible. This video is a lot about the oral tradition that surrounds the creation of the New Testament, specifically around the rabbinic culture that precedes the time of Jesus. Okay, the 12 disciples thing wasn't something that Jesus just came up with and something that he started doing. It was a common practiced rabbinic tradition for a rabbi to take up 12 disciples and have them follow him throughout their lifetime and learn his teachings so thoroughly that they could memorize them and relay them to the rest of the world. Rabbinic disciples put themselves through dedicated training specifically so that they could memorize their words verbatim. That way they could put them down and be able to teach the world what they've learned. This was a common practice in Jewish culture, and that was basically the whole point that they were there. That's why they were there following them in the first place. And if that's not enough, the skills that Jesus had access to better supports the relaying of the message that Jesus preached. The disciple Matthew was a tax collector, and tax collectors had a very specific skill of being able to jot down notes very quickly and very accurately. I don't think that it was an accident that Matthew was one of the disciples that Jesus chose, but accident or not, the point is he had the skill to be able to record Jesus' teachings and relay the message onto the rest of the world. Plus, the disciples had 11 other witnesses to be able to draw their information from and make sure that what they had in their head was accurate. Wait, 10 disciples. I accidentally counted Judas. Let's make one thing clear before you go out and use this argument. The information provided in this video doesn't prove that God exists. This information doesn't prove that Jesus is God. All this argument does is it takes a reasonable analysis of the cultural context that we have surrounding the Bible, and it suggests that it's more reasonable to believe that the message of the Bible wasn't distorted before it was written. At least more reasonable than the antithesis. Recognizing the argument that's made in this video, you can still logically believe that the Bible is false. You can still logically believe that the events of the Bible didn't necessarily happen. The most reasonable position to assume is that based on the cultural context and all of the evidence that we have in front of us, that the Bible was not changed before it was put down on paper. I'll go more into archaeology and documentation and the long list of things that I said in my last video on defending the Bible. So that's all I have for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for debating with me. Oh, and I think I saw some of these clips on YouTube, but if you're looking for these DVDs, Dr. Peter Williams from Laner Theological Library, I'm sure you can find them somewhere online. Check that out. He makes a lot of really good evidential arguments in these DVDs. Alright, bye.